So you can have, say for example, you have a panel that dimension there. You can use these dimensions, the same dimensions, in, for example, if there's a panel here, you can have it that wide. And if you do that with each of the panels, you know, some way, it requires a bit of working out and getting used to, but it means that the pages look harmonious when they're actually facing each other. An important sort of compositional thing when you're doing these is the positioning, and I can't stress this enough, it's actually the positioning of the speech balloons. Because, you know, there's nothing worse when you're reading a comic than you read the balloons out of order. It just it destroys the illusion that this story is passing in front of your eyes. It breaks the spell. So, I mean, very often I'll start off just with the speech. I mean, I know basically what I want in each picture, but composing the page, I'll be composing it so that I know which, you know, I know the text and I know where the balloons are going to go. Especially if it's a complicated scene, we have 5 people talking, you know, and you'll have to arrange it so that these balloons are read in the right order. We read left to right, but if you put a balloon directly below that one, you know, where it's finishing, you'll read that one before this one if you have a nice enough gap in between. So you must work out the flow between these balloons. So here it's sort of like that. There it's like that. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I've just designed whole pages around the placement of speech balloons. I get down from a double page to a single page now. With comics, it's possible to speed up the speed of reading or slow it down by different ways. If you can slow down a comic by having a lot more speech balloons, which physically take you a lot longer to read them. You can slow it down by having lots of detail. Now, the visual detail in comics is like the equivalent of descriptive passages in a text novel. So if there's lots of detail, lots of drawn stuff that you have to concentrate on and look at, it takes longer to scan than a panel that doesn't. So if you want a sequence moving quickly, you can drop the number of speech balloons or words in each individual balloon. And if you drop out detail in the background and just have sort of blank backgrounds, simple things that you can take in at a glance, then the reading speeds up. One thing you have to think about before you start designing your page is there one panel on here that needs to be bigger than the rest? It may be a big scene, it may be a big view of a city or a room or whatever. It's a way of making things important. If you have somebody here and they're saying, look at that down there, and it's supposed to be quite an important thing of the plot, and you have a little inset panel like this, and there's a magical ring or something. Now that won't have as much importance as if you have a panel this size, and obviously in the ring like that. So the size of the panel actually dictates a lot about what the reader thinks is important. Like if you introduce a character and it's, oh, this is Zack the Destroyer from whoever he is, and he's just standing there like that, and here's the people in the foreground. Oh, that's Zack the Destroyer there. It won't have as much impact as if it's a panel like this with a big, a big close-up of him, because you know he's important by having him, dominating the thing like this. There he is. Some people don't do it, but I think it's important to have compositional lines connecting your panels, visually connecting your panels. I mean, a comic, you have to design the page as a whole. You can't just do half a dozen for example, individual little drawings, stick them together and then hope they work as a comic. Because you have to have stuff to lead your eye from one to the next. One of the ways we do this is by having what's known as markers. So you'll have, say, a man walking down the street. He's going that way, as he said. And so you put a lamppost there, and there's a street going off into the distance. And then if you switch handle, and then have him here, and you put the lamppost there behind him, you know he's passing that lamppost. You know, and then if you he's further down the street, he's walking off in the distance, and you have the lamppost there in the foreground. You know he's gone. He's walked past that, where if it was just individual pictures, so there might be a wall there might be something else to other markers, but by having that, you know he's gone down here, you know he's not suddenly somewhere else. Here, I think this is a good example of a marker. Well, in this page, for example, it's the window of the car from there to there. From here to here, it's her, the blonde of her hair, the car window. These ones, it's a straightforward zoom in to the window. Now here, you can see this statue of Peter Rabbit on the window ledge, and also the red blind. Well, here we see inside that room, there's the statue, and there's the red blind. Now, because if I hadn't put that, if I'd put the angle like looking this way with just a blank wall at the background, she could be anywhere. She could literally be in any room, anywhere. But because that's there, we know she's in that room without even having to think about it. That's the point, you don't have to think about it. And that's clear storytelling.